welcome to this video where we're going to have dance chat. So many dancers are interested in learning more about the bodies for obvious reasons. You start to learn more about yourself, often through injury, right? Injuries are our best teachers. And that can often wake up an interest in, I want to go further with this. I'll just tell you a little bit my own story of how I went from dancer into becoming a dance medicine practitioner. I had horrible shin splints when I was 17, and I was at dance college then. We go to college a little younger in England, and I literally couldn't walk with shin splints. You know, it was, let alone dance. I was off, and just by complete serendipity, a sign went up on the notice board and at college, and it said a final year osteopathy student is doing her thesis in shin splints in dancers. And I was like, me, she needed volunteers. So I went along, and literally all we did was like a standing postural examination. She had a bunch of junior students in there observing, and started to do the standing examination, and she literally kind of shredded my posture. I was like, I haven't even moved yet. She went, her weight's too far forward here, and this is too tight, and this is too... And I thought, not one teacher in 10 years of full-time training has picked up on this. I want to know what she knows. So it kind of sowed the seeds for me, and then as I went into my dance career, had my fair share of kind of injuries and issues, and would really struggle to go and find a practitioner that really understood what we do, because you can treat the symptoms of an ankle sprain with a sports person and a dancer in a pretty similar way, but your rehab is going to be quite different because they're doing different things. And many practitioners don't understand the degree of flexibility that we need to have. They go, ooh, that's too wobbly, we need to stabilize that. It's like, no, my job requires me to get my leg up there. Or they didn't have any tools and they would just say, you need to rest. How often do we hear that? That is sometimes appropriate, but most of the time we actually need to be doing something actively to take care of our injury issues. That kind of led me to get an interest for how the body works or how it doesn't work. And every job I did, I sort of became the unofficial company masseur, you know, because I'd be like, oh, let me release that for you. And I just had a sort of a knack for it. And eventually all my kind of friends encouraged me to train in it. So I trained originally in sports massage, and I was still working in West End in musical theatre in London. And I would treat people during the day and then go and do my show at night. This is to say, we're kind of talking about careers here and what avenues are open to you. And that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I was able to parallel my two careers for quite a long piece of time. So it's encouraging you, if you've got these interests, just dive in and just don't predict where it's going to take you. I had no idea where I was going to end up and what I would be ending up doing today, and it was certainly not this. This is just encouraging you to just go on a journey and trust that if you follow the interests and the things that light you up, then you'll end up where you need to be, or at least somewhere interesting. Who knows where we're meant to be? What does that even mean? So tell me, so this is Melanie, who's come to join me today, and she's on a similar path. So tell me where you started to first think about, maybe that I've got some other interests here.
Yes. Well, my sophomore year of college, second semester, I sprained my SI joint. Found out that I had some hip discrepancies going on. One hip was higher than the other. Then after that, it was just like more injuries and more injuries and more injuries. I ended up finding out I had patella alta and like a hip labrum tear and all these things that I just didn't know what to do with. I wasn't going to get surgery because we all know that, I mean, surgery is necessary in some instances, for sure. I definitely think it has a place. But for me, I knew that I wanted to go the more holistic route. So I started doing things like acupuncture and Reiki and all those kinds of things, and working with the energy and obviously physical therapy and all those kinds of things. And that's when my interest kind of sparked. I'm actually going to get my PhD in acupuncture after I graduate from this wonderful university. So that's what kind of sparked my interest in this. And I will say that it did make me realize that throughout my training as a young dancer into a college dancer, I realized that I was never actually training for my body type, meaning that I have mild hip dysplasia. I wasn't training to that. My knees, my kneecaps are not in the right position. They never have been. I wasn't training to that. I was training like the average dancer, and my body was not average. It was a very far from that. So,
and that's a really good point, and it's kind of one of the premises for developing this whole platform is to encourage you to be in the individual you are. You don't have the body of the person next to you. What works for them might not work for you, and the only way that you can address that and work that way is to, I think of it like a recipe, right? If you're cooking something, the more ingredients you've got, the more interesting a meal you can make. If you've only got 2 ingredients, you haven't got many choices. Learn lots of different things. Learn about how the body works. Refer that back onto yourself and start to develop a broader toolkit that allows you to adapt for what you're doing. And the more you know about yourself, don't rely on a teacher knowing. They're coming into a class with a lot of people, there's a lot to see, and they don't necessarily have the time to really pare down to the bare essentials with each dancer and make a different recipe for each of them. You have to take on that responsibility yourself. So by educating yourself, you're empowering yourself to be your own advocate. And that's the thing, particularly when you go out into the industry, nobody advocates for you, I'm afraid. Or I wouldn't say no, because that's being very overgeneralized, but very few. And there are still, one of my sort of sad regrets about the industry that I love is that there's still some really not useful working practices out there, and even training practices, this very aggressive, fear-based training that terrifies dancers into thinking they don't have a voice, that they can't stand up and advocate for themselves. So being empowered with knowledge is how we change that. The industry is changing very slowly, but it's you guys, it's the grassroots. You are the directors, choreographers, teachers of tomorrow, and the more you educate yourselves, the more the profession will start to grow and flourish as well. And we can get rid of some of these old practices that just don't work anymore. Just as you were saying, you discovered, yeah, that's not for me, and that's okay. Often that can kind of bring you into a little bit of contention with a teacher who can't quite see that or has a very rigid way of approaching it. Have you kind of come into that territory?
Fortunately for me, here at this university, I have not experienced that because we have the wonderful Miss Robin Kish to kind of, help lead us in the direction of taking advantage of taking care of ourselves. So thankfully we've had that. But I have noticed that my ego wants to get in the way and say, oh, do that because everybody else can, which means you should too because you're a dancer. And I think that has actually been the teacher part of me that's had to be calmed down in order for me to take care of myself. Because there is that peer pressure to want to be the most flexible in class and to want to push the limits or do the tricks. I think tricks is one of the, I would say, one of the biggest things that could be affecting most of dancers nowadays because, we have a lot more technology. We can do cooler things. So I think it's important to understand that you're here because you love the art of dance, not necessarily the physicality of it. And then from there, kind of switch your perspective on what's really important, destroying myself to have a 15-year career or creating my career out of longevity. And making that.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I've said in a few of these videos, I'm advocating for your future self.
Yeah,
because your future self will thank you for getting on top of this stuff early on. And you brought up an interesting point there. I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to the dance world. And I come from England, where we don't have so much of the competition dance. It is there and it is growing a lot more. So that was quite a new world to me when I first came over to the States. And I was like, oh, this is different. And for me, it kind of felt more like a sport than an art. You talked about artistic expression there. Sport, it tends to be about how many, how fast, how high, you know, it's measurables that you can have a checkbox of can you do A, B, and C, versus how are you communicating through your body. And if anybody that's ever done ballet class with me will know this, why, if you're throwing your leg up round your ear in a particular adagio combination or in a kick or something, what is your motivation for doing that? I have actor training as well, so we're all about the motivation, right? What in the narrative of this combination that you're doing suggests that, or how does it fit in? Or does it suddenly look very out of place in the middle of this beautiful adagio and suddenly comes into the middle of it? Does it fit? Is it necessary? I always say there's nothing more beautiful than a well-placed 45-degree leg. You know, it has nuance to it, finesse. So I have a bit of an old school approach, but I see dance, I'm just keen to retain that element of dance that is about human communication, it's body language, taken into quite sort of extremes. But when we get into the angular, not to say there isn't a place for that, particularly in the more modern works, but just being more judicious about when that's appropriate and when it isn't, and not thinking that anything less than your leg up at 180 degrees is a failure as a dancer. Yeah. So it's a good sort of point to be mindful of, and that kindness to self that you kind of referred to there as well. I'm also a psychologist as well as an osteopath, and it's, again, we are very, when we've been brought up in a training environment that can sometimes be quite aggressive, and it's demanding. Not necessarily done in a you know, a way that is negative. It's almost done in a positive way to encourage you. But we've had this old sort of trope within the dance world, that survival of the fittest, no gain, no pain, no gain kind of mentality, and that it's a tough profession, so we have to kind of toughen you up by yelling at you. And what that's driving is a tendency to achieve through fear of failure versus wanting to achieve just through the joy of doing it. And if you've been exposed to that quite a lot, particularly in early dance training, at some point it just becomes a learned response. You don't need a teacher there to do it anymore. You just do it to yourself, right? And you just literally are beating yourself up on a daily basis. Yeah. And it spreads out into your whole life. I speak as a recovering perfectionist, that this can start to, you know, take over a lot of your life, and it can lead to, you know, anxiety and stress in the body, which is physiological, right? There's no difference between our thoughts and our physical expression. They are all biology. So it's something we need to be mindful of, just to be, you know, a healthy human being outside of being a dancer. And I think that's one thing that you're kind of exemplifying here, in that you have other interests. We were just chatting earlier and she said she's also doing vocal performance as well. Don't feel you have to limit yourself. We talk about a dancer's identity. So many dancers, it's not a job you do, right? It's who you are. But if everything in your life is all about dance, all my friends are dancers, I come from a family of dancers, I earn a living through dancing, I do dance for fun, I don't have time for anything else other than dancing, all my social circle are dancers, everything's about dance. If we suddenly remove dance from the equation, that's a precarious place.
You feel lost.
Feel lost.
Incredibly lost.
So this isn't about denying, and we know how much time it needs to be devoted to dance, but just open your thinking to other things. What would you want to do beyond a dance career? What might you want to do in parallel with your dance career? I did both for a period of time before I kind of transitioned over. So don't limit yourself by thinking that you have to be all about dance. And even if you're just spending a bit of time thinking about it, a little bit of research, if something like this lights you up, dive in a little deeper. I'm going to be developing, depending on when you watch this video, I may have already developed, a program, a certification program for dancer health advocates. These are dancers who want to go a little deeper to get a better understanding of the body and start to become advocates for dancer health within the studio setting that they're in, within the dance company setting that they're in. We traditionally haven't had a very strong voice as dancers. We tend to do as we're told, certainly in a dance situation. But in a professional situation, you know, you go into the job and you're desperate for the work, right? Because there's not that much work out there and a lot of dancers. So you go in and you're like, I want to do it. So it's like, could you hang upside down, support, you know, with a band around your ankle? Yes, I'll do it. There's no safety harnesses. No, but I'll do it. You know, we tend to subjugate our own needs because we really want to have the job, and we have this sense that if we stand up for ourselves and say, actually, no, I prefer if you actually put some safety in before this, that they're just going to fire you or they'll never hire you again. And that can be the case, unfortunately. But if we don't do something to start changing it, it'll never change. It's that old saying, if you want something to change, you have to change something. If we start empowering all the dancers around us, if every company has a dancer health advocate in place, every job you're on, I'm going to be the dancer health advocate for this. I'm going to speak up for the dancers in the group and say, this room's freezing. This is not safe. You need to get the temperature up, so that we start to voice for ourselves, and then the industry will shift around it, okay? And we come with kindness. We're not there to challenge, but we are empowered with the knowledge. And if your teacher or your choreographer is coming into a studio of dancers who are all empowered with knowledge, they're going to think twice before they ask you to do something that's not safe for you to do. So we really need to take responsibility and know that we don't need to be confrontational, but we do need to start standing up for ourselves and having a voice, and having an educated voice. So you can not just say this needs to change, but explain why, and just have that intelligence behind it. And I think dancers are hungry for this, right? Yeah. You know, most dancers I know, they're incredibly intelligent people.
They want to be more knowledgeable on the subject. They don't like being left in the dark about it. Yeah, I would agree.
And, you know, again, it's all about keeping ourselves free from injury. I'd much rather spend my time helping people prevent injuries from happening in the first place than helping put the pieces together afterwards, because that's always, you know, a more difficult journey. So this is about really listening to those early signs. And again, it comes back to what we're saying about just wanting to always, you know, that slight desperation to always be in class, always be there and present, not be seen as the one who's injured, and we will subjugate and squash those little whispers coming from our body to go, no, it's fine, it's all good, rather than going, actually, I've got an issue, I need to just take a step back here. It takes confidence and courage to do that. But once, like anything that takes courage, once you've done it once, you're like, that worked, I'm going to do that again, and it emboldens you to go forwards. Do you have any kind of advice for dancers that are kind of, you're in that beautiful sweet spot between coming out of a very intensive dance college program, but also looking at that wider lens of careers?
Yeah, I would say to anyone in my position, or anyone younger, or even older than me, take advantage of your most vulnerable moments.
Ooh.
Because had I not experienced all of these injuries, whether that was physical, mental, like whether I was struggling with something emotionally, I know I would not be the person that I am today, intellectually or physically. I have, and it really hit me this year, I have grown so much as a person. I wouldn't even necessarily say in dance. I would just say in life.
Thank you.
I feel wise. I feel wise, and it feels good, and I feel confident. And I know that if you are struggling with something, whether it's an injury or deciding whether or not you want to be in a dance career or be a scientist, like, you can do it. You just have to believe in yourself and also understand that your art is always going to be there. It never leaves you.
No,
So.
and there's so many outlets for that beyond just like the standard dance career. And I loved what you kind of said there about, waking up that inner wisdom. Because we all have it, but we tend to think we give our power away to others. The teacher knows best, or other people know, but I don't know anything. It's like, you have inner wisdom. Just that earlier we were doing a little video on balance, and we were testing one leg versus the other, and that little shift to her left leg, which was a little wobbly, the body told you. That was inner wisdom showing you there, like, oh, I'm not confident. I talk about the body speaking to you, and as you were saying about injuries being great teachers and how much information you've got from it. I'm the weirdest person doing what I do, because people come in, oh, I've got this really bad injury. I'm like, great, you're going to learn so much. And particularly if it happens to you as a student, I'm like, perfect, it's better that it happens now. You're going to learn so much from it. And then when you go into your career, you've got everything you need to keep yourself safe.
And your body adapts.
And your body adapts
much better when you're younger than compared to when you're older. I'm not saying you want to get injured now, but like,
if it
happens. Has been the best timing for me. Not that I loved it, but
yeah,
I ended up loving it. Like, it's like a badge of honor. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
And we learn from adversity, and we tend to sort of try and shrink away from adversity. We don't get anywhere by being perfect. Nobody learned anything by being perfect. If I know everything, I do everything perfectly. Well, that's boring.
Yeah,
right?
Quite boring.
And often the dancers who've had an easier journey, the ones that had bodies that just very naturally fell into the positions, didn't have to figure it out. I had a friend that I trained with in college, and she just had one of those bodies. You're just like, it's just so easy
like
for
how?
you. And she would say, people go, how do you do that? She said, I don't know, I just do it. But she wasn't really able, she wasn't a very good teacher, and she hated teaching. She said, I don't know, I just do it. I don't know how to figure it out for somebody. So if you do have a more challenging body, if you've got injuries to work around, you have to figure things out. Again, you're that detective going on the journey. You're gathering experiences. And I always say, going on stage, when I'm teaching at like pre-professional level, I would say, you're not coming into my class to be perfect. If you're all perfect, what the hell am I doing here, number one? I'll just go and put my feet up and have a cup of tea. But I'm not here to teach you to be perfect. I'm here to teach you how to dig yourself out of a hole. Yes. Because when we're on stage, if everything's going smoothly, we're good. But something's always going to go wrong, whether it's with your body or whether it's the bit of scenery falls over or someone's phone goes off in the audience, all these things. Can you autocorrect, keep going? You completely blank on your choreography. You don't want to just stop and stare at the wall and go, oh, rabbit in the headlights. How do you fudge and cover up and get yourself back on track? And I always say that comes with confidence. But you have to have experienced adversity to have the confidence to know you can get through it. Yeah. And if you do mess up the choreography and you're with a group of dancers all doing the same thing, maybe it's quarter ballet, and you do it with such supreme confidence and you improv your way around it that you make it look like everyone else went wrong. Yes. That was my strategy. Anyway, but you have to challenge yourself, and you have to be in that position in order to gather the skills to do it. So there's never anything, my mantra with the body, again, weird for somebody that does what I do, there's never anything wrong with your body. That is an arrogance born of ignorance. Your body is simply giving you information that is probably important, and you probably would be wise to listen to. You'll watch my video on inflammation, and I always say inflammation is information. It's there to tell you something. It's not doing it to spite you. Your body does not have a grudge against you. It is trying to do the best. So listen to the whispers, listen to the conversation that's going on with your body, and if something pops up, you're like, oh, why? Be the inquisitive kid. yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? And dig under the surface, and you're going to find out so much more about yourself, not just about how to be a better technician in a dance studio.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited for your journey where you're
Thank you.
heading to. So you're off to acupuncture school. So you've been doing all your prereqs here
Yes,
whilst doing your dance
I'm a
training.
chemistry minor, and I did a lot of biology prerequisites my freshman, sophomore year, anatomy.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
You
it's
had
just been-
this
And I'm a
planned.
Pilates teacher.
Oh,
I've
there
been
you
teaching
go.
since I was 16. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
You know, walking example, it can be done, and she's in a full-time dance program. So
Yeah.
don't use that as an excuse. Don't overload yourself either, but just open up your mind to thinking about what's possible and see your dance career as one little facet of the many-sided diamond that you are. Okay. Thanks for joining me, Mel.
Thank
and
you for
having
having
this
me.
chat. It was really great, and I hope that's inspired you guys to get out there and explore what might be an interesting path for you.